Good morning, good morning, good morning. Just waiting for a few people to come online. Please comment in the comments if you're here live or if you're watching the replay. Today we're going to be talking about leverage. On Monday we talked about value and we talked about what it was and the different types of value. And how it shows up in your business. So value is, in a business sense, it's an offer you make, and people that create a result that it solves a problem, okay, that people are willing to exchange money for. Basically, that's what value is, and that's how you provide, the value that you create to the world. So there are three types of value, just to do a recap. Personal value, retail value, and wholesale value. So retail value is needs, it looks after needs and wants of people, and wholesale value is about component value and investment value. All right. And the six values that create value out of time, that is, you don't have to put the resource, a lot of resource of money into it. Some of it you do, but not all of it. But it does require a lot of time, is our passion, our talents, creating our network, the knowledge that we accumulate over time, our character and how that develops and the things that we do to help develop it, and our purpose. And all of those things are within our own control. I spoke about that as well. We have complete control about what we study, where we study, how we study, and how we improve ourselves, okay? And what sort of programs we do to do that. Sometimes it's a qualification, sometimes it's a degree, sometimes it's a workshop, sometimes it's a YouTube video, right? It all depends what we're doing, but all of those things add up to who we are as a person and what we have to offer in the world. All right, so that's something we can continuously work on, and I'm a big believer in lifelong learning. So my learning journey never ends. It continues all the time, still today. And I love to enroll in programs, and I love to go into other people's programs and see what they do, and always pick up an aha moment wherever I go. There's always a pearl to be harvested from all the different things and wonderful things that we have available to us today from different providers, okay? So value is always created through innovation and timing. What do I mean by that? Innovation is where we offer our products from. All right, so we could innovate something, could be brand new, and that sort of innovation, or an invention, which is also an innovation, or it could be an improvement on something that already exists. That's what I mean by innovation. In timing, it means we're turning up at the right place at the right time to attract the right people for our services. Timing is all about serving. So it's about client retention, client attraction, client nurturing. All of those things happen in that space. And so those two together create value in the marketplace. And the more value we create, the more revenue we generate. All right? So, and when you stop creating value, you cease to have a place in the market. You cease to exist. And we see that happen with businesses over and over and over again, don't we? And when I say you cease to create value, you cease to create value that's needed or wanted by the marketplace. All right? They don't see the value in it anymore. So the idea is to keep on producing value. All right, and I said there's two parts to the coin of the wealth equation. The wealth equation is value times leverage equals wealth. Okay, so leverage now is something that we need to look at and something we need to do in order to create profit. So if you remember on Monday, I spoke about we can have lots and lots of revenue, but if we're not making profit, then we're just a charity. Okay, and that's true. That's what a non-profit is all about. They make enough to put money back into the business and pay salaries and pay all of their bills, but they don't make a surplus. So that's a non-profit organisation, and that's what charities do. But we entrepreneurs are in business to make a profit, because profit is where we build a legacy for our family. That's where we can buy assets, we can buy property, we can do a whole lot of things, stocks, blah, 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 blah. And that creates our wealth, which we then hand down to our family. And if you make a big enough profits, you make a legacy for your family that will go on for generations. So that's the idea of being an entrepreneur, is to create profit and build a legacy. Okay. So we also give back. I mean, we also do it so that we can give back. The more money we have, the more we can give as well. And giving is a big part of it too, which we'll talk about later on Friday, I think. But anyway, so leverage. What is leverage? So leverage is how we can increase the value of a product or service, and leverage speeds up how fast the money can come in. That's really what it does. It just speeds it all up. Okay, so, and another thing with leverage, you can always make up in leverage what you lack the ability of. Okay, so for example, employing people is really great leverage, because you don't have to do it all yourself. Or if you don't have that skill, you can import that skill and pay for it. That's leverage. All right. So just because you suck at something doesn't mean you're going to not be able to offer that as part of what you do. You can simply hire in or buy in the skill to be able to do that and to cover yourself. So as a general rule, the less leverage you have, the more leverage you are for someone else. So when you work for somebody, you are their leverage. Okay? You have a value, and they are paying for your value, and they are paying for your expertise and your time. Whether you're at entry level going into the workforce for the first time, or whether you're a seasoned manager, you still are the leverage for someone else. All right, you are creating value, you are receiving revenue, you are receiving money, but it's based on your time and your effort. So you are always locked into time. It's always about your hourly rate. And even some entrepreneurs, it's still about the hourly rate. So coaches often charge by the hour, for example. I encourage everybody to get away from that model as fast as you can, because it's very difficult to leverage from there. Okay. So a coach can do it simply by going from one-on-one to a group coaching situation. That will help you leverage your time. That's an example of how leverage can help you there. Okay. So the more leveraged you are, the wealthier you will be. So when people have a whole portfolio of property, for example, they are leveraging their money into the property, but they are getting a return on that investment. And they will always own the property. They'll always have the property as an asset. So it goes up in value and all of those sorts of things. That creates wealth, and that's leveraging their money. So that's what we mean by the more leveraged you are, the wealthier you will be. And the less leveraged you are, the poorer you will be. And the reason that is because you're still, you're leveraging your time, and there's only so many hours in a week that you can leverage. all right? And that's so that it is limited. Whereas when you leverage what you're doing, when you leverage your money and leverage your time and leverage everything else, and we'll go into what that is in a moment, you don't have a choice but to be wealthy, right? But when you're leveraging your time only, then you're limited. So one is limited, one is limitless, okay? When you are the one leveraged, it's limited. When you leverage other people, it's limitless. I hope that makes sense. Okay. The other interesting thing that happens is the more that you leverage, the more it costs as well. So that's also a consideration. But the difference is when you're looking at the cost of the leverage, you don't look at how much it costs. You look at what the return will be, okay? And that's what should drive your decision. What will the return be if I go into this leveraged situation, all right? So for example, I can give you an example. I invested about $100,000 about 3 years ago in a company, another company, not my company, in Silicon Valley. And it has now attracted investors, and they've put they're putting $50 million into it. So something that I paid and got shares for $100,000, that is now worth $50 million in 3 years. Now, I don't own all of the shares. I'm not saying that. But my shareholdings have certainly skyrocketed in that time. That's leverage. And it was a gamble. That's the other thing you've got to understand about leverage too. It can be a gamble. So you've got to make an educated decision about it. And that's your due diligence and risk analysis and blah, blah, blah. All of those things come into play, all right? But, you know, that's the sort of wealth that can be created when you leverage. And so it did cost me a lot of money to actually do that. I mean, to me, $100,000 was a lot of, that was a big, sizable investment 3 years ago, all right? So to gamble, because that's basically what I said. Well, you know, this 100,000, I just might burn it. And I had to be okay with that. So, or you also, when you leverage, you have to make sure it won't take you out of the game. And what I mean by that is that it's not going to make you bankrupt, okay, by doing it. So you've also got to make that decision, all right? So there's a lot of decisions you have to look at, but the rewards are many. So that's the payoff, you know, what it could be worth, what could happen, what money you could make as a result of undertaking that leverage in your business. So here's an example. So let's just say, yeah, we want to learn something. So there's lots of different ways we can learn, all right? And learning to me is always leverage, because even if I learn something from another guru, like I mentioned Myron Golden last week, he's a guru, and I utilised some of his teachings. I gave him credit, and I put it into the program that I was teaching you on Monday. All right? So you can do that, and I do that all the time. I will use other people's work when I believe it's awesome and needs to be shared, but I always give them credit for it. Okay. So let's say we want to learn something. There's various ways we can learn it. We could just go on YouTube. It wouldn't cost us anything but our time, and we can learn that way. Usually they will cover the what on YouTube, but not the how. The how is usually in the program that you have to purchase, but you will get the what, and then you can do your own research, all right? So it's a really good way when you don't have a lot of money. It's a great way to learn. It's a fantastic way to learn. But it's the lowest cost, okay? Or we could buy a book. Again, very low cost, and that will give us some hows and answer some other questions. So, but you're paying more than you are looking at a YouTube video. Are you with me? So, the book costs a little bit more money, but it's going to give you more information too. Or you can join a mastermind. That's going to cost you more money than a book. All right, but you're going to get answers again, but the investment will be higher and you'll be able to leverage more. So the higher the investment, the more you have to leverage as well. Or you get a certificate or a degree, you get a qualification. Okay, certificate costs less than a degree. A degree can cost a lot of money depending on which country you're in. Okay, which university you go to, and a whole other things, which also some universities are leverage. If you go to Harvard or you go to Cambridge, you can have some leverage by having a degree from one of those places. Okay, so again, I'm talking about leverage, but you pay, the more leverage you have, the more money you pay. All right, and I'm just explaining that in that example. The leverage that you've paid for in a degree, you will get a higher return back from as well. You'll get bigger payoff. So let's say you do a degree as a doctor or you do a degree as a lawyer, then you're definitely going to get return on that investment for the rest of your life. For the rest of your life, you'll be able to get a return from that. Okay? Very, very high cost, however, to set that up. All right? So that's what I mean. Each decision you make is based on you're going to base it on what return am I going to get for this leverage? What will the return be to my business for this leverage? Okay, so you can do organic marketing, which doesn't cost anything but time, or you can do paid Facebook advertising, which is going to cost a little bit of time, and but a lot of cost to get the message out there. But you're going to get the message out there to a lot more people at the same time. All right, so that's why you're paying for it, and so leverage speeds up the return on investment. Leverage speeds up the revenue, and it also speeds up the profit. Okay. Think about comparing travel. Let's look at traveling for a minute, because I just want to get, I really want you to get this concept of leverage. And by the way, some profiles are more in tune with value, creating value, not so in tune with creating leverage, and other profiles are more attuned to leverage, but not so much attuned to creating value. So often we can't see these things. Often we are blinded to these things just based on our profile, our entrepreneurial profile. Okay, so let's say I want to travel from one side of Australia to the other, just for an example. That's a lot of kilometres. Now I can let you know, because I've done it, to fly from Brisbane to Perth, so from Queensland to Western Australia, that's right across the country, takes about 6 hours on a plane. I mean, in a lot of other, like in Europe, you'd be going across several countries, right? If you flew 6 hours. So we're a really big country. We're about the same size as the United States. I think it's about 6 hours from New York to LA, right? I think. Pretty sure it is. So I think we're about the same width as they are. So let's look at different ways we could travel. And this is leveraging, all right? We could walk, number one. Wouldn't cost us much. A good pair of shoes, or maybe several pairs of shoes, because it's a lot of kilometres, okay? But we could walk. It's the cheapest way to get anywhere. It's the cheapest way to travel. But on our part, it takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, and it could even damage us. We could tear ligaments in our legs or get blisters and blah, 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 right? So there's a downside to it. But we could do it, and it would be the least expensive way of getting from one side of the country to the other. All right, or I could get a bike, okay, and I could travel the same distance, and I will go faster, definitely, and it probably will be a little less effort for me, because at least I can sit down, okay. It definitely would be faster. It would be less effort on my part, but it's still slow. And a bike, we've got to We've got to buy it or hire it. Okay, so let's say we buy it, and I mean, I know you can get bikes that are thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. Let's just say we buy a pretty average bike, about $500, and off we go. Okay, so we could do that. We could go on a train. Okay, and that would be a lot faster, and for us, it'd be a lot less effort. We can sit on the train, we can actually enjoy the train. The only trains that go across our country are really expensive ones, by the way. And it takes about 4 days to go across our country by train, traveling 24/7. Okay, so, but you can do it, and you can then choose whether you want to go economy or whether you want to go middle class or whether you want to go first class. Okay, you have those choices to make as well. But let's say on average it might cost about $3,000 to do that. Okay, another way you can do it is to get on a plane. So this is leverage, right? All of these we're leveraging up. Okay, we could take a plane, a lot faster, little effort. You got the hassle of, getting to the airport, doing something with your car or going on an Uber or what to get to the airport. Then you've got, the fact that the flight could be delayed. You've got all of that sort of stuff that could happen, or even cancelled in some cases, if there's something wrong with the engineering. So you've got hassles. You've got hassles to go on a plane, but it's a lot faster. You can go business class if you want to, or you can go economy. So I'm saying it's about $4,000. I'm saying that I would not do a 6-hour flight unless it was business class. I'm a bit spoiled. So let's just say it's $4,000 to go and do a business class flight to Perth from here. And I've done that. I've also done economy. Wasn't fun. Okay. Or even faster still, I could charter a jet. Okay. There'd be no delays. There'd be none of that hassle. You just get to the airport, you go on the tarmac, you go straight in. You don't go through security and all that stuff. None of that happens when you hire a jet. So depending on if you're the person hiring the whole jet or whether you're just a seat on the jet, it depends how much money it is. So it could be anything up to like around about, I'd say from $20,000 or more. Okay. But it's a lot more convenient. Okay. So again, that's leveraging up. And that's what I mean by leveraging costs more. It definitely does. There's more expenses incurred to leverage, but there's a lot of benefits to gain from that too. Okay. So that's what it looks like from a consumer point of view whenever we leverage. So from the business point of view, there's 2 ways to leverage. One is magnification and one is multiplication. So when we magnify, we do it through communication. So we normally have people involved in that. So that's our marketing, our sales, our branding, our website, our social media platforms, our networking events, our joint ventures that we might have in place. All of those are forms of leverage to get our message out to more people. I mean, that's what that's all about, to get our message out to more people. Okay. And the best people on our team to take care of magnification or magnifying are the promoters, the motivators, and the closers. Okay. They're our best profiles to get the message out. That's what they do naturally. Okay. So that's something else to think about. And then on the other side of the coin, we have the multiplying to get our message out, multiplying leverage. And we do that through systems. Okay. So that would be things like system.io, where you would have your website housed and, you do your automatic emailing to people. So you get out to a lot more people in much faster time. But we need the message that the people created over in the magnifying department also to give us that to put onto the system. Just remember that as well. They go hand in hand together. But that's leverage. That's big leverage, all right? And our system, any system that we use, and it could be a franchising system, all right? So we have our business, we have our company created, and we're going to let other people buy a license to be able to do the same as us in another location, all right? That's huge leverage, but that's expensive leverage, right? So, you know, using system.io or those sorts of systems, IT systems, is a lot cheaper than franchising the business, and a lot more things have to be in place before you can franchise a business, for example. But franchising is huge leverage, and franchising is awesome because you don't sell any of the equity. You keep all of the equity. So that is actually the goal, and I talk about that in the boot camp. The goal is actually to license or franchise your business. Because then it makes money while you sleep, it grows, it gets bigger, it can go international when you do that. So that is the goal. That's the goal I want for everybody to have that in mind when they're doing their business plans, etc. So that's multiplication. And what does that look like in the business? That's things like the finance department, that's accounting, it's making sure we're making a profit. It's counting everything and measuring everything we do, evaluating everything we do, analysing everything that we do, making sure we're making a profit, a sizable profit, looking at ways how we can improve the profits. Okay, that's all done in the multiplying side, and the best profiles for that are our enhancers, our analyzers, and our reflectors. They're the best ones to look after that sort of leverage and that sort of multiplication. So when you understand that, then you know which people you need to put in place in your business to look after the magnification and the multiplication. When you have both of those things happening, you start to have fantastic profits that are more in the 30 to 50% mark. And if you're in coaching, you can definitely get to 50% profit margin. Absolutely, you can. So if you're doing group coaching, I'm talking about, not one-on-one. One-on-one will never do it. But doing group coaching, absolutely. Writing courses, developing courses, you can leverage to the hilt because that can go international as well through your systems. It's quite an easy way of doing it, okay? And paying some advertising. So that's leverage. That's what I mean by leveraging. So value and leverage have to go hand in hand together. You create the value first, and then you leverage the value. And every time you create a new piece of value, you then have to create new pieces of leverage. Otherwise, what happens is you get unbalanced. And if value and leverage were two legs, one leg is leverage and one leg is value. You put the value one forward first, okay, the value leg, all right, and then you pull up leverage, and then you do the value, and then you do the leverage, and then you do the value. So you're balanced. The business is balanced, all right? If you keep creating value, and innovators like me often do that because we love to create products, right? We love to create things. So we just keep creating value, 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 all right? But I have difficulty myself in my profile. I have difficulty seeing leverage. I can probably see magnification better than I can see systems, all right? But if I just keep doing it, then we're going to stretch ourselves, right? Our legs are going to get to a point where we're going to do the splits. That's not good. That's not healthy for the business. And if we keep doing, let's say we just keep leveraging because we understand leverage, but our value is not so great, same thing will happen. We can do the splits. Or worse still, we'll go around in a circle, all right? And I see a lot of that in businesses. They are heavily on the value side or heavily on the leverage side, and they just keep going in circles. They don't grow. The only growth I ever see is when you've got equal value and leverage happening in a business, all right? And when you understand what that is when you unpack it inside the business. It's your marketing, it's all of those things I mentioned before, all your communication, all your message to market, all your branding, it's all your systems, it's your accounting, it's your KPIs, it's all of those things that measure everything, everything's working properly. Okay, when you have those balanced, then you have a very profitable, very stable, very sustainable business. But you need to be able to see the business through those perspectives, because if you can't, you're just blinded to them and you won't do anything about it. It will be detrimental to your business. Okay, and I mentioned the profiles that can easily see those things, and the profiles that can't, then we need to get those profiles around us to be able to do it. But there's another thing that I share with you in the Roadmap to Millions Blueprint, is that there's a formula where you only have to engage 3 profiles to cover all of the profiles, because each profile has a secondary profile that back it up. All right, so you can step into your secondary profiles, which are one to the left, one to the right of us on the square, which I haven't shown you yet. That's in the boot camp. All right, but there's a formula. So if I'm an innovator, so there's another 2 certain profiles I need on my team, whether they're outsourced or whether they're recruited, that doesn't matter. But as long as they're on your team, because then you've got all perspectives covered through your secondary profiles, and you only need 3 people in the organization, which is really cool. Okay. So it's really important to make sure that you've got the value traits happening, which is all about the strategic traits and the implementational traits, okay, in the profile, and the leverage traits happening, and that's all about communicative and logical happening in the business. So they're the 2 things that you need to have for the wealth equation to work, which is value times leverage equals wealth. And I really hope I've shown you today what that really does look like in a business and what that means. And I'd love you to have a look in your business now and list the value that you've created, and then in one column, and then the other column, list exactly how you're leveraging it at the moment. And just pay attention to where the gaps are, all right? And see which side you're heavier on. Are you heavier on the value side, or are you heavier on the leverage side? And remember, you've got to be as balanced with the 2 as possible. So if you've got gaps, fill in those gaps, all right? And if you've done the business health checklist and you go through every step of that business health checklist and you implement everything in there, you will have a balanced business. It will take you through value and leverage extremely well, and we'll make sure that you've got that in place. So that's an important tool to have. The EBS profile is an important tool to have as well, the profiling tool, because that will show you who you are and how you show up in business. And it will also show you who you need to have around you to help you with other things in your business. And that saves a lot of time and a lot of mistakes if you understand that innately. Now, I go through that in the boot camp. I go through the profiles in a lot of detail, because it really is the backbone to everything that I do in business. Everything I do is reliant on that. And I'm at the point now where I can just talk to people, and just from the questions they ask and the things that they focus on in their business, I can pretty much tell which trait they are. Absolutely, I can tell the trait. Okay. And sometimes I'll get an inkling as well to the actual profile they are too. But I always like to double check that with a follow-up of a profile, just to make sure, because I don't want to make a mistake. And the wealth creation strategies for each one of those profiles are very different to each other. Okay. And a clue of what those wealth creation strategies are in the famous people that we mentioned. You could look at their biographies and start to work out what you should be focusing on in your business. In the boot camp, I go through that very in a lot of detail about how you create wealth as each of the different profiles. Okay. And speaking of the Roadmap to Millions Bootcamp, I've got one starting on July 23. I would love you to be there. It's going to be heavily discounted because I'm developing the course while the people are in it. So it will be the cheapest, the best value maybe is what I should say. It will be the best value it will ever be, and I'll never repeat this again. So it's $997 Australian dollars to do that program with me. It's 12 weeks program. We'll be together for an hour on Zoom every week. It will also be together for another half hour every week for question and answer sessions. So you get a lot of my time that I normally wouldn't do that much time. And you also get a one-on-one with me for an hour every month. And I don't offer that to my group people ever. That's only for private coaching that I do, and I don't do much of that, and I charge a fortune for it because I don't really want to do it, right? So if you're interested, comment below that you would like a brochure, and I'll send a brochure out to you which will have more details about what's in the program. It will be a fantastic program. I have run it before as a retreat, and I have had lots of people graduate from that, and you know, they've all got really great results, and I've got some of those testimonials in some of our brochures and on the website, so you can have a look at those. But yeah, change their life. The main comment I get back from people who do this work with me is they wish they'd done it years ago, and they wish they didn't wait. All right, there's many aha moments to be had. It's a very different way of looking at business, and once you look at business through these glasses that I give you, you'll never look at business the same way ever again. And it will never be the mystery that it is currently. And in fact, you'll forget the mystery that it is to you today once we go on that journey together, because you'll think, oh, I've known that the whole time. You haven't. I've extracted it from you and put it in a certain way so that it makes sense and so that it's less complicated. And so it's a really transformational program. I've seen people, well, when I first started introducing these things that I teach in my business in 2012, I doubled my revenue in 6 months. In 6 months, I doubled it. Pretty cool. So, and that was just changing the value. I hadn't even touched leverage at that point. Okay. But I really got clear about the value and how to create it. And then the story, you know, just gets better and better and better as I went along. And now I focus on leverage because I focus on making more profits. So my revenue hasn't gone up a great deal in that time, but my profit margin has gone up hugely. All right. It's really cool. It's really cool. I'd love you to come on the journey with me. I'd love to share the information that I have. I really don't want it to die with me. I really would like to get it out there. And of course, after you implement that in your business, I'm also going to have courses coming out that you can become a coach in all of this yourself. And you can start using all of these techniques with your clients. That's also coming, but you can't get there until you implement it in your business first and get all the lessons that you want to have for your business. And get all the aha moments that you can share with your clients on the journey. And let's face it, we've got to do the journey. We've got to walk the walk before we can talk the talk. All right, I'm a firm believer in that. Nothing I teach I haven't done myself. Nothing. Okay, so thank you everyone for being here. I'll be back on Friday when we'll be talking about what holds entrepreneurs back and how can we fix it. All right, it will be a very interesting 30 to 45 minutes, and I look forward to seeing you then. Thank you for being here today. I really, really appreciate it. Janice, I see you. Trudy, I see you. There may be others I can't see. Please go through this again, because there was a lot in this, and it would be a good idea to go through it again and then do that homework that I mentioned about. Look at how much value you're creating in the business and how you're leveraging that value. Just that little exercise will be really, really valuable for you. Okay. All right, everyone, have a great day, and I'll see you on Friday at 9 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. Thanks, guys. Bye.